There were a bunch of people deriding Final Fantasy XVI ahead of its PC release, saying that, oh, the demo numbers look like they're in the toilet right now, but there's a couple of things that you have to consider. The 3,000, 5,000 concurrent players on the demo for a game that's over a year old in anticipation of the full release coming out not but a couple of months later. I was somebody who was definitely looking forward to the game, and, there was a smoking deal on Green Man Gaming, which, shout out to them. They provide an exceptional service, and I would highly recommend them. Not sponsored, I'm just saying, it's a service that I've used for a very long time. I got a smoking deal on the complete edition, and yeah, I'm going to be one of those. So at this point in time, over 16,000 concurrent players. At some point in time, I've got to finish my other Final Fantasy journey that I'm on right now, but as of right now, things looking up, okay? In general, Square Enix, what they're doing over there with Dragon Warrior could leave a lot left to be desired, but on the Final Fantasy front, things are looking good. And as somebody who cares a hell of a lot more about Final Fantasy and the health of that franchise as opposed to, well, just about everything else in gaming, I'm at least a little bit happy when it comes to that. Now, in my lifetime, probably been more bad Final Fantasy content than actually good Final Fantasy content. And I would have to say right now, with this string of releases, the 7 remake stuff and 16 from everything that I'm seeing, we're on a good trajectory. We're on a very good trajectory. And if they can keep this up, and if 16 can provide a worthwhile experience for people, which it looks like it's at least getting off to a pretty good start, and here we are on a Tuesday evening rather, that's great news. And if the biggest concern from the producers is just please don't make any offensive or inappropriate mods, which modding community, of course, they're going to, but don't really have to worry about removing any mods. Don't have to worry about it getting slapped down from places like Nexus mods if you need to get rid of pronouns or any sort of trigger warning screens, because 16 doesn't have any of that stuff. In fact, it's the first ever, as far as I know, at least mainline release, Final Fantasy game to get an M rating. Now, like I said, I haven't played the game yet. I don't have any first-hand knowledge on it. Frankly, I've tried to stay in the dark with this game as much as I possibly can because I want to go in with completely closed eyes to the experience and just drink in everything that it has on offer, because when it just comes to general appraisal of the game, I've heard good things when it comes to combat. The story could be a little bit wonky, but here's the thing with Final Fantasy games. Very rarely you get a complete package when it comes to a good story and good gameplay. Very rarely do those things actually come together. And I'm being honest, as a lifelong fan of the series. You have absolute duds like 8 that I've tried time and time again to like, but at some point in time, you just really got to take it or leave it. It's not good. The story sucks. The characters are at best. And the gameplay, that battle system is atrocious. The fact that it incentivizes you to blitz through the game as opposed to engage with the combat, it's totally borked. And the fact that you don't get a proper airship until practically the end of the game, it's totally silly. But 7, it goes without saying, it was a home run back when it was released. 9, I like the characters. The story, well, it starts to fall apart, right at the very end. But the characters do carry that game. Vivi, eventually when you figure out the twist with Zidane. I've always liked Steiner. Even some of the supporting characters and the villains pretty good. I like 9 more than I actually do. I think I like the idea of 9 more than I really do. Oh, and of the other Final Fantasy games that I played, it's like 6 is fantastic. 12 I think is a steaming pile of crap. And 15 I've really got to go back to. And 13, well, just come on, I've made my point, and so is the entire world on that one. If we could just memory hole 13, that'd be fantastic. But 15, with the Royal Edition, yeah, I really got to go back to that. But that's obviously behind 16, which hopefully, in a couple of weeks' time when I potentially, it could end up being longer than that. It could be one of those end of the year, nice relaxing experiences. So 15's a little bit behind that. But yeah, just to touch on what Naoki Yoshida's talking about, it's like, please don't make any offensive or inappropriate mods. He's not like stamping it down saying that we're going to go ahead and remove them a la Capcom, sending out DMCAs or anything like that. They're just saying, hey, we're really proud of the game that we made, and if you could just go ahead and not be degenerates for like 6 seconds, but this is the internet, man, and the internet's gonna internet, and some of the mods for 15, pretty great. Some of the mods for Final Fantasy VII Remake were fantastic, actually. Made that game really pop on the system, and another game that I'm really looking forward to is, of course, the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And normally when we're talking AAA games, and this is why I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about a franchise that is near and dear to my heart, that has at least been treated better in recent years than just a simple rinse and repeat cash cow being shepherded by idiots. This time around, and the people that are responsible for the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy actually give a shit about the project, okay? Hamaguchi, Kitase, Nomura, Nojima, all of those guys over there that have worked on every single aspect of this stuff, they love this game. They love this series of games, and this is something that you don't see a lot of. You see a lot of fan attacks that are out there, okay? And there was a lot of division and discourse around Remake when its ending dropped the first time, and people were big mad about the plot ghosts, but recontextualized throughout the full story. But they kind of make a little bit more sense. Could you have worked them in a little bit more eloquent and elegantly? Yeah, perhaps. Yeah, perhaps it could have been done a little bit better, but I seen where they were trying to go with this. And the whole idea that, oh, we just wanted a remake. Oh, we don't want your fanfic over the top of this. Well, it's like, okay, how do you differentiate? It's like labeling everything that you don't like as woke. It's just, it doesn't fit. The moment that you see a new game come out there, oh, it's a new game, it's a AAA game, oh, it's just inherently going to be crap. It's like, no, there are gold nuggets that are out there. Most of it's crap, but every once in a while you find a truffle in the midst. And yeah, there have been hits in 2024. Most of them indie. This is the one AAA experience, big budget AAA experience. Like, I understand, like Astrobot and even Stellar Blade to a lesser extent. Maybe is that AA? Could you go ahead and argue that? I'd hear the arguments. This is the only real big AAA experience. Might not have sold all that well, even though, like we've run over the numbers, and in actuality, it's like the 5th best-selling game of the year, and somewhere in between, and in on and around 3 million copies have been sold. And if they just finally announce that PC port, which may or may not coincide with the stupid ass PS5 Pro being released, or maybe coming out a couple of weeks beforehand, because we're seeing some dates flung out around there, November 12th or the 24th, I think, or 26th, whatever that would coincide with, 2 weeks down the line. But I'm seeing that popped up, not really seeing a source or anything like that. But yeah, this game could be absolutely huge. Rebirth could not be the best-selling game of the year, but it could definitely end up moving units, because as we're seeing right now, and especially with a game that's, a year removed, and it already on a Tuesday has over 16,000 concurrent players, and one that when people play it, absolutely love it, and then you start to delve. This is one of those game experiences where the more that you peel back the layers, the more that you're rewarded. A lot of games that are out there, specifically looking over there at Ubisoft, if you could just go ahead and get the surface level read on a game. Like, whenever you experience your very first Ubisoft open world game, you probably have a generally fun time with it. I remember the first time I played through Assassin's Creed 2 or Far Cry 3, I thought that they were fantastic. And then Far Cry 4 came around, and then they continued on with the Ezio trilogy, and then it started to get long in the tooth, and then Far Cry 5 came out, and then by that point in time, Assassin's Creed 3, Unity, Rogue, Black Flag have all come out, and they were just so belabored, and they failed to recapture the imagination and the magic of what they originally built everything off of, unlike what's happening over with the Remake trilogy, where you have the director who's trying to assuage the concerns of some fans that are out there wondering, oh, is this going to be a faithful remake, or are you guys just going to go ahead and spin off and tell your own story? It's like, well, all the original minds that worked on 7 that made it that timeless Hall of Fame game that you remember, I don't think it's going to be a storyline that will betray the fans of the original. Because without getting into too many spoilers for Rebirth, it's pretty much lining up about as close to 1-to-1 as you can get. Outside of not visiting one town, you eventually do in the long term have to circle back around and revisit. But basically in the same spot. Things are actually in a more dire situation, but not in a different situation. I don't want to get into too many spoilers, because obviously I have plans for the game. I think if you have the capacity to experience it, you will not be disappointed. Okay, in response to concerns held by many fans that when all is said and done, the trilogy story will be drastically different than that from the original game. Original Final Fantasy VII director and recent Rebirth producer, Kitase himself, Yoshinori Kitase, has attempted to assure them that despite any changes the plot may see, which in actuality, there's certain aspects that have been changed, but big plot points really been changed from the original, at least to the point in the story where we're at right now. If I'm keeping it at a certain level, and a point where I don't want to delve into too many spoilers. So basically the same, yeah, it will not betray the fans of the original. Kitase, who previously worked, as the designer and producer on such other classic titles like Chrono Trigger, I think he was a part of 6, unfortunately a part of 8 as well, 10, Kingdom Hearts. Did you work on Kingdom Hearts? That's interesting. Yeah, shared his thoughts on the remake's trilogy story during a recent interview given alongside Rebirth director Naoki Hamaguchi, who is the perfect example, right? Because we hear this a lot from the quote-unquote creatives that are out there in the game space. Oh, I was a fan of said franchise, and now I came in and I completely and totally rubbed my muddy boots all over the floor, kicked up my feet on the sofa, and yeah, I'm helping the franchise, not burning it down in the process. Shut up, you bigot. No. Naoki Hamaguchi, he always speaks about his love of the franchise, and now that he has the reins of control for making the most grandiose remake project of all time, now that he's in the driver's seat, has nothing but reverence for the source material. He only wants to expand on it. He doesn't want to rewrite it. He doesn't want to update it for a modern audience. I mean, they expanded the Costa del Sol section, and there you go. That's the picture that was making the rounds, letting everybody know that, hey, if you think that this is going to be ruined for a modern audience, we got 2 reasons why you shouldn't believe any of that crap. And battle director Teruyuki Endo, who, yeah, man, like, that's probably my favorite. That's interesting because I do really love the story, but the gameplay is fantastic. And Endo coming over after he helped perfect the Monster Hunter franchise. Yeah, he came over and basically in an afternoon pieced together, the battle system for Remake, and then just completely and totally blew it open for Rebirth. And then eventually when Reclaim, that's what I think the third part is going to be called, does come around, I can only imagine how much fun Sid's Dragoon gameplay is going to be and what ultimately he's going to cook up for Vincent, because that's going to be so much fun. Like, we're looking at 9, 10, 11 playable characters. Theoretically, without getting into any spoilers, there's that many people that could be playable in Reclaim. Amidst a larger discussion regarding Rebirth's direction and its upcoming sequel, Lindsay Loveridge, okay, that sounds like a Final Fantasy-ass name, okay, from Anime News Network. Lindsay eventually pressed her guests as to what they considered the wildest fan theory you've seen about the trilogy so far. That there's different timelines that are all intersecting, and then there's time travel at play. I don't think that's the case. Following an outburst of laughter from the group at Square Enix devs, Hamaguchi first replied after the Otakon 2024 panel yesterday. We were chatting with the voice actors over dinner, and this exact topic came up. Imagine that, a group of people working on a game continuing to talk about the game instead of personal politics. That's why every single time that I find interviews from any of the creatives, any of the actors on this game, they're just talking about how much respect they have for the source material, how much they love the character that they're portraying, and how great they want the game to be. Like Hamaguchi, once again, right? Like, he came out earlier this month. I think this was towards the end of August. I seen this quote, but Final Fantasy VII Remake director, Part 3 is going to be one of the most loved popular games in history. He has such faith in the team that he is leading. He has such faith in properly adapting the source material that he's banking his reputation that the development team is hard at work as we speak, and we're going to make the game something that even beats any expectations that you have towards the game. I'm absolutely confident that the third game in the Final Fantasy VII Remake series will be one of the most loved popular games in the whole history of video games once again. And I have full confidence in him, because I'm thinking of all the stuff that they could potentially do, and I know how much they exceeded my expectations with Rebirth. So it ends up being a dud. I'm going to be so disappointed. I'm going to be, oh boy, we're going to be just vitriol 24/7. There's going to be 3 videos every single day of me crapping on Part 3, but I really don't think that's going to happen in a few years' time. Why does it have to be a few years? Why can't it just be a couple of weeks? Anyways, we're talking about Chadley. Oh my god, dude. I think Chadley's still talking about Chadley. If you know, you know. Which is the character who supports Cloud in Rebirth. Yeah, we're talking about how, like, some people think that he's actually evil and will turn out to be the last boss in the final title. We were cracking up about that. Yeah, that's kind of hilarious, but without getting into too many spoilers, he's going to have a big old part to play, especially during the Return to Midgar section. I'm just going to throw that out as a theory, but don't worry about that. Finding himself at a loss compared to his colleague, Kitase then asserted, I don't know if this is something unexpected or anything. I guess there's not really a specific thing or theory that I can comment on right now, but we do hear a lot of players, different conjectures, saying, oh, how will this story change from the original? And how do I want to comment that Don't think that's how it will be. Well, always kept the original in mind, and I don't think that's going to be a storyline that will betray the fans of the original. But also, at the same time, it's been 27 years since the release of the original Final Fantasy VII. There are these things that we feel we can only do now in the remake project that we can bring a new happiness, a new sort of feeling of satisfaction to the players playing this game now 27 years later. That's what this will entail exactly is something we hope players will experience soon. It's the high end, it's the interactivity of that, it's giant kaiju battles with the weapons. That's something that you hear, okay, in regards to a remake or the remaster or something like that. Somebody taking a game that's, just about 30 years old at this point in time and saying, hey, you know what, we finally have the technology and we finally have the ability to really realize what we were thinking about when we were making this game back in, 1997, releasing it to the public back on the PS1. But here we are with the PS5 and, PC capabilities this time around, and we can go into as many different creative realms as possible. We can go and indulge in some of our wildest ideas. Calm down, Nomura. And this time around, we can make a more immersive experience for our players, not to indulge our personal politics, not to adhere to the said modern audience. We're trying to do what's best for the fans, for the gamers, for the people that actually appreciate this franchise, this game, those characters. You don't see this very often, man. But this is not the first time that Kitase has made such confidence assurances regarding players' inevitable reception of the remake's trilogy's final entry. Speaking of the third game currently ongoing development, during an August interview with Video Game Chronicle, he declared, "We really have listened very carefully and taken on board all of the feedback of the first two games in the series, and all of those learnings are going to be reflected in the third game. It will be exactly what fans are looking for. Why can't we have more of this? Okay, this is why I shill for this game. You might say I shill or anything like that, but I've never seen a red cent from Square Enix. And hell, you take a look at my game catalog, and bro, I've probably personally put a couple of those developers' kids through college with the amount of money that I've spent throughout the years on this franchise. But you don't get this level of care and attention from very few other franchises that are out there. So that's why I will continue to stump for this game. That's why I will continue to look forward to the future of whatever Kitase, Nojima, Nomura, even as goofy as Nomura can be, and Hamaguchi are going to continue to do. Final Fantasy XVII looks like, especially what Part 3 ends up looking like, because there's a level of care and attention to detail that is very rare in the AAA gaming space. And it's that thing that we say a lot, and a lot of people also echo the same sentiments, that you need to reward good behavior. And this right here, every time that I see an interview, every time that I see anybody on that creative team talk about this project, it's nothing but love, care, and attention and appreciation of the fans. Not derision, not hatred, but simple, humble behavior. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.